We have some breaking news out of Hong Kong and China this morning. I want to start with China. The government there responding to President Trump's plan to raise tariffs on some Chinese imports that was supposed to go into effect on September 1st, or will go into effect on September 1st, saying that Beijing will take unspecified necessary countermeasures, but giving no details. Now, when that happened, Dow futures prior to that had been higher by more than about 100 points, but then tumbled on that news. You can see what's happening right there.
I mean, this is the key. We looked with President Trump saying that he was going to hold off on some of these.
Right.
Maybe people would think that this is going to be some way that there's a truce, something comes together. China comes back and says, no thanks, and they don't even mention some of the delayed tariffs. They're still pointing at what happens.
All the administration officials that we talked to Wilbur Ross yesterday said this is not a concession to China. I mean, they made it a point to say, we're not being nice. This is about our consumers at Christmas and electronics. So when you say, look, we're not trying to be nice, we're just doing this to help our own people,
say,
we still don't like
we'll take that at face value.
But this was starting to scare me is the brinkmanship on both sides of this. And President Xi is not stupid, knows that President Trump loves a higher stock market and is up for re-election. Right. And I just, thank God it's not nuclear brinkmanship, but this is economic brinkmanship, which can get really scary, I think. And they're not stupid. They know that President Trump, it means a lot. But I think President Trump sees what's happening in Hong Kong. And it's like, you've got your own issues for your economy, except President Xi has ways of quelling problems that we don't have here with our people.
And President Trump now tying what's happening in Hong Kong to the trade turmoil in terms of how he's going to handle this, which I think which may or may not complicate things. Let's get over to Eunice Yoon, who's in Beijing right now this morning to break down some of the details of what she's hearing on the ground there. Eunice.
Thanks so much, Andrew. Well, as you said, there are no specifics or details about what those countermeasures are. But from what we see on the Finance Ministry website, the reasoning they were given was that the move by the U.S. side seriously contravenes the consensus reached between the two leaders of China and the U.S. during their meetings in Osaka, as well as Argentina, and that the move deviates from the correct track of resolving differences through consultation. So I was speaking to a couple of people here, some who do consult policymakers in Beijing, and they said that China wants all the tariffs lifted, and that even with this latest round of tariffs, they feel were especially unfair. And the way it was explained to me was that they felt that President Trump just announced these latest round of tariffs, and now he says that he's delaying them, but that those tariffs should never been put in place in the first place. So there was a lot of anger about that. Also, President Trump in his latest tweets, or one of his latest tweets last night, had seemed to suggest that the Chinese needed to reciprocate because he did delay on these tariffs. And when I was talking to people here, they said that goodwill isn't really there, that there's a reason why, on an official level, China did not respond officially because they feel that this move was done mainly because of complaints by U.S. businesses as opposed to any type of goodwill gesture to China. So when I asked, do you think that China is going to make any big soybean purchases? Pretty much everyone I talked to said they don't expect any major soybean purchases at all. Now, in terms of what the President Trump's tweets on Hong Kong, the Chinese government has not specifically mentioned anything about those tweets about Hong Kong. And state media, though, has given us a bit of a sense of their frustration about what they see as broad U.S. interference. For example, the official People's Daily put out a commentary that reads, "To heck with the U.S.'s concern on Hong Kong." A China Daily editorial today also said the U.S. politicians' tweets expose their ugly hypocrisy. And when I was asking people, do you think that President Trump that President Xi Jinping would actually meet with President Trump, as President Trump seemed to suggest in one of his tweets, the answer back was universal, and that is that President Xi Jinping would not accept this kind of invitation because then it would be seen here as China allowing the United States to intervene in domestic affairs because China believes that Hong Kong is a purely domestic issue. And so that is something that the government here would want to avoid. Guys?
And Eunice, just to put a fine point on it, you don't think we're going to be hearing from President Xi via Twitter or elsewhere sending his regrets, if you will, to that invitation?
No. Probably more likely maybe on Weibo, which is sort of the Twitter version, like China's Twitter, but I don't think so.